Hi, I'm Carlisle Grant, and this is Behind the Title What the Resume Doesn't Reveal. This podcast is where we sit down with Caribbean leaders, creatives, and quiet giants to hear the real story, not just the highlight reel. No fluff, no filters, just truth, legacy, and lessons from those who've walked the path. From two-time UWI Guild president to Google certified strategist, a justice of the peace, barbershop mogul to DNA test trailblazer, Terron Dewar wears many hats. He's generating millions in digital revenue at Sagicor, building brands and breaking barriers with purpose. This is a story you'll want to hear. But this conversation isn't about the role, it's about the road. Let the journey begin. All right, Terron. Much respect for
Love and
coming
respect, my
through.
brother. Love and respect.
Really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, share your pathway to how you are so successful. So you're the marketing manager of Sagicor. That's the right title.
No, well, actually, I am the digital revenue channel manager. I
okay.
used to be
Right.
marketing manager of Surgical Life, but them give me a little, send me over there to make some money.
All right, cool. So before Sagicor, then, before being on the highly esteemed profile, before the barbershop, the startups, who was Terron Dewar?
Well, I tell people in painting a picture of where I come from, I tell people that I'm a young man from the country, Westmoreland.
Right.
First time I came to Kingston was really when I came to the University of West Indies.
Wow.
So first time I see like these big places, when I came to Kingston. My father's a Rasta man that sell craft on the beach, right? So I tell my my kids that I'm 100% sure that I made $1 million in sales before I was 10. I had $1 million of sales under my pocket before I was 10 because I used to go on the beach and sell beads and craft to tourists. You understand? So I understand the concept of convincing people, positioning a value proposition, creating, that. And I went to Manning's. So Manning's is in Kingston. There are a lot of options for prestigious school. In Westmoreland is one. Right? You either make it or you don't make it. So I went to Manning's, and as I said, I'm the first person from my family to go to university. So a lot is given, a lot is expected.
True.
And I carry that badge and the pressure with it with pride. You understand? But then I came to university and I had two choices: make it or not make it. And I just many times I go hard,
Yeah, man, for sure. I remember you from those times. Your guild president, all of these things.
Yeah, man. So yeah, that is who I am in a nutshell, and not very pretentious.
Right.
I don't take myself too serious.
Right.
I brand myself as a lifelong student of anything I do.
Right.
And you'll never hear me say I'm an expert at it. I'm a lifelong student, because the more I look at it and I come across different information and I really look at the same thing, I view it differently and I internalize it differently. So that is really who I am.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned that you brand yourself a certain way.
Yes.
Right. So then, with that, I'm sure there comes sometimes there's some misunderstanding. So what do most people misunderstand about your journey, especially when they only see you as this top exec at Sagicor, you have businesses, you are doing speaking engagements, you do all of these things, the articles, the interviews, the social media presence. What do they misunderstand about you?
I think some people don't understand my journey, so they don't know the context within which, or the lens through which you view what they see. Right? And to be very honest, I don't spend much time in presenting or trying to convince people what it is. Because a lot of people believe that I'm from fortunate background because they see a lot of the successes, right?
The glory.
But what they don't understand is that I've willed myself to this position. Like literally willed myself to this position. There's a photograph that I have on my Instagram, and I don't post a lot on social media, but there's a photograph I have on my Instagram of me. One time, I don't know what happened, I had the occasion of going back to Westmoreland in the middle of the week, and I don't go home very often, right? And I have a photo in front of the house that I grew up in, like a board house, right? And it dilapidated in it. It looked worse than how it used to be now, But I'm telling you, that is where I left from to come to Kingston. But the grass was green, bro. And when I look at it, I said, it looks like not much, but you recognize this is fertile soil, and this is where I came from. So a lot of people don't understand that. And I probably don't spend enough time to convince them otherwise. But to tell you honestly, I don't put much emphasis on it either. You understand? Because I mean, people celebrate winners, and I just plan to win. You understand? So, and once I do it, then they'll say, okay, he knows what he's doing.
And then they'll be interested.
And then they'll be interested, and then I'll be able to share my journey and tell you what I've learned and who, you know, where I get this information from and that sort of thing. So that's really how I go about it, Carl.
Nice. So then I know you've worn many hats, right? Educator, entrepreneur, you're a justice of the peace, corporate leader. At what point in this entire journey, you know, whether it is from high school, university, all other things, you started to realize that people are actually looking up to me, you know, even if silently.
Right.
No.
You know, I learned that very early. Very early. So even from my high school days. So in the community that I came from, I said not a lot of people went to Mannings. So they used to call me Mannings man because there just used to be few of us, right? So I've been academically gifted from a long time, right? So people know me as a savvy leader, a man who get things done. And earlier asked how I brand myself. That is how I brand myself. Okay. So my name is Terron Dewar, and I used to say I'm a doer. D-O, and I do things. I get it done, right? So that is the thesis behind who I am. I'm a doer. I get things done. I recognized a long time ago that people look up to me. Even when I was in high school, I wasn't the most scholarly, and I wasn't the most athletic. But I was the guy who had the best of both worlds in terms of I do very well in school, and I'd be able to par with the cool kids and that sort of thing. So I'm the person. If you need somebody to bring both persons together, I am the guy. You understand? Because I can talk to both, and if I can talk to the athletes and they respect me, and I can talk to the academics and they respect me, because I play in both sandpits. You know, so I learned from very early, but when I really figured it out was during my university years. Like when I went to UWI, within 2 hours of the orientation session, and within 2 hours, one of my friends took at me and said, you're going to be guild president. I'll never forget it. The guild president was Vishwanath Tolan at the point in time, and the way how he spoke, one of my friends said, you go, and I wasn't even a prefect in high school, bro. You see what I said? But, and I learned from the university days that I come on, because of how I carry myself. How I carry myself. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm very fair. Very, very fair. You understand? I don't believe in it, very fair. And I've gotten a lot of credibility from that. And I think that is the foundation of who I am, I just do it if I say I'm going to do it.
So you weren't nervous then, even when you were told that you're going to be the guild president?
No, I never put much thought process into it, because I didn't deliberately orchestrate it. It's just that, as I said to you, I'm a doer. So I started out being, I think, sports chef at Taylor Hall, and I did such an amazing, it was undeniable. It was undeniable that I'd moved to the next level. And once people interact with me and recognize how I carry myself, and that I do what I say I'm going to do, then they have no problem in saying, call Terron, because they don't forget it.
I enjoy you remember your tagline from...
Of course, no, I live it, bro. Prior planning and preparation prevents poor performance. I don't even need to remember it, I live it,
Nice.
I'm a very prepared youth, I understand, So, and I learned that straight throughout my journey, because I'm going to tell you something. I was so broke going at university, most people didn't recognize that. During my entire graduate and undergraduate degree, I bought 2 books. 1, 2, with my own money.
Wow.
I figured out that if I went to class early, and if I went prepared, the lecturers usually at the start of the class would ask like a question from the previous lesson or from the current lesson to see if you read ahead. And if you got the question correctly, they'd give you books. So they'd use the university style. The university give lecturers like a book grant, and they'd buy books and stationery for themselves. They'd usually buy textbooks, and they'd give them away in the class. Bro, I figured it out. So Dr. Christine Cummins and Dr. Jermaine McAlpin was the first 2 people I saw did it. And when I figured it out, I was like, but I can't afford these books. All I need to do is prepared. So I showed up early and I was very prepared. Bro, that is how I got most of my textbooks. Throughout university. That is also how I paid for my master's, because I wouldn't have been able to go to university without a student loan. But I did, by the time I did my master's, you were for free, bro. You were for free. because I was prepared. You understand?
Yeah.
So I understood being prepared and, back with brilliance and everything else paved up a critical.
All right. So I want to dive deeper into being prepared.
Right.
You mentioned that you would have covered the master's degree. You figured out how to be able to get books and stuff. What are some other things or like that even students watching can tap into that they wouldn't necessarily know, or how can they position themselves to really excel if they come from underprivileged backgrounds?
So I'd say part of preparation is being involved. So you have to understand. Sometimes passion don't pay the bills, but sometimes you can figure it out. Like for example, I remember when you guys used to run after me.
Yeah.
Bro, all right. Special things, you understand? Like that is where the foundation of some of these things come from. So you may not study a particular discipline, but you find interest in it, and you dive in and you learn how some of the areas work, and you develop skill sets over time. Because even my sojourn in marketing, I mean, I got a lot of that from sponsorship negotiations and dealing with marketing
from
managers.
The university. From the university.
That's how I got it.
Experience that I got there from UMA brought me.
That is how literally that's how I got it. You understand? So what I'd say is just go in, participate, and try to leave a legacy. Treat yourself serious and your contribution serious, and try to leave a legacy so that the other people can see what you do, and you always send the elevator back down, teach somebody something, and if you take it serious enough and put in the right amount of investment and preparation, you will also leave an imprint on you that you can then parlay into something else that is bigger. So that is what I always recommend people try that sort of approach.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So your grandmother told you that you'd be on profile when you're age 10.
Yeah, man. I never forget.
What was instilled in you from young that shaped your ambition and your character?
All right. So as I said, I grew up in a modest household.
Yeah.
So in classic terms, I'm a classic barrel child. Right. Classic barrel child, because my mother migrated when I was in grade 5. My grandmother raised 5 of us as grandchildren. Right. I grew up in a house with a lot of cousins. Right. And I even remember the TV programming. From 4 o'clock, Hill and go straight down. I could tell you exactly what happens on the TV because it was the big box TV at the point in time. And like, out of my cousins, I was the most disciplined. I wouldn't say gifted because we all come from the same stock, but in terms of book work, I produced the work. And my grandmother used to make us watch Profile with the young boy, right? And she used to tell me that, yo, you ever come from Profile one day, When my Profile interview aired, I drove to Westmoreland to sit on the bed and watch it with my grandmother. My grandmother is sick, she don't come out of bed, right? I go into sick because that is all it. I just want, and all she did, because she don't talk, because she has stroke. She smiled the entire interview. And that, you see, that touched me. Nothing else don't matter. Because I
make you see what you're working for.
I myself have never watched that interview. Yeah. I never watched it. Because I don't try to be too self-absorbed.
Right.
I keep it moving.
Yeah.
But I watched that thing with I watched my grandmother watch the interview. Because I can't tell you what happened on the screen.
Yeah.
And I just remember feeling, yeah, man, at least she lived to see this because she said it, Yeah. And that is what that's what I felt about it.
All right, so you also served, we mentioned earlier that you served as the guild president for twice, right?
Twice, yes. I was the first person to do it twice in Jamaica.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, so then student leadership, right? What did that teach you that, about, being in boardrooms or even business, that business could or couldn't?
All right, watch this. You see, my experience being guild president shaped a lot of who I am today. Why? Not just because it gave me a broad platform to see things and do things on behalf of the student body, which I obviously got a lot of credibility from. Like people call me Prezi to this day. They say right now in business, so when I walk into some places and they see me, they say, Prezi, I don't know these people, but they know me.
Remember you, yeah.
Even now in this DNA testing business, I have 64 locations across the island. I partner with doctors. You know how much medical doctors say, yeah, I remember you from that thing open real doors. And not just locally too, on a regional scale. And I think that is one of the big things it did for me. It made me a regional citizen. So I understand how organizations and people work, not just on an individual level, but on a cultural and institutional level across the region. Because I traveled the region extensively, representing students in all these areas. But I think my young mind at that point in time was so impressionable. I sat in rooms, boardrooms with professors and PhDs every day as they discussed and navigate things, and I understood how the thought processes worked from very early. So when I entered corporate and I saw some of these navigations and mind game play within corporate, I've already seen it 5 years before. So I know which one to react, which ones to react to, because you're smoking mirrors, and which ones not to react to, which helps me significantly. So I think that experience is invaluable, man, and I still enjoy a lot of courtesies and confidence from that experience.
So you're saying it's very, very important to get involved.
Very important to get involved.
In school,
very important.
University.
And then it shaped who I am as a person. Again, because I developed the credibility of getting things done, and they know me for that. That is just who I am. I get things done. You understand?
There's this saying that that goes, if you aim to be a resource, you will never be out of opportunities.
Never.
And
I live that.
Yeah,
I live that.
True. All right, so 10 years ago, success might have looked differently for you, right?
Yes.
And you've built platforms across education, finance, health, and grooming, right? And you're probably being like, boy, Carla, you've been bigging me up throughout the interview, but I want to give you flowers, regardless. So I will continue to do that.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, success 10 years ago compared to success now, is there any difference? And what does it look like for you now?
Yeah, a big difference. And this is going to be a moment of vulnerability. So remember, I told you that I came from very modest upbringing, right? So when I came to Kingston, came to university, and I started to operate in the same space as a lot of people, I recognized immediately that a lot of these people they have greater foundational support than I do, right? So not delivering, not succeeding, is not an option for me, right? Because if I tell you, when I went to university, I have two uncles who just became, in the nick of time, one was turned a fireman and one turned a police, to sign my SLB guarantor. Them times, you need two guarantors of professional standing. Nobody not signing guarantors.
I had that student loan,
right?
So.
I sign guarantors to everybody in my family right now.
Wow.
When I say everybody, everybody. And who I can pay for, I pay for it, right?
Nice.
So I never had the failure was not an option in my end. But what I learned 10 years ago now, because I was trying to build myself to this person, it was more about thinking about when I do this, what these people think about me. It was like reputation molding at that point in time, building a personal brand. These days, I don't think about people that much anymore, bro. I don't think about people that much anymore. See, once I'm operating ethically, and which is a big thing for me. Once I'm operating ethically, I just do what I need to do, right? And not in the impressing people or whatever thing. I mean, once you have enough conversation, you recognize as a boy have sense. So you get what you get from that. But these days, I don't try to say, this is Terron, this is who I am. I don't, because I don't believe it.
10 years ago was brand building. Right?
10 years ago was brand and self-building too. It's almost like convincing myself that I'm worthy of these things that I'm doing.
And then so today, what is success?
Today I compete with
versus me.
Today I compete with, they say you have to invest 10,000 hours to get us. I invest 10,000 hours every 10,000 hours.
Wow.
I want it done every 10,000 hours. Anybody around me, the people in my household, people, they'll tell you, I invest 10,000 hours every 10,000 hours because I can always get better. I can always get better. And I know how that works. I've seen it. I've seen it as I look at new opportunities, and I've gotten better over time. Like, I'm the startup king. I do a lot of things, right? And a lot of things, some of our friends, they have the golden touch. I want to touch it in it, work, but there are some things that I can't scale and do all these things. So I have working opportunities or ventures that I basically park because I've developed something that I can get greater leverage from. When I touch it, it magnifies a lot more. And right now, I just focus on getting better so that I can, serve these opportunities and serve the people who are in my network. So that is what I focus on now. It's just getting better rather than the brand building. Now it's about challenging myself to get better over time, and not necessarily, proving to people that I'm worthy of an opportunity. Because if you don't give me an opportunity right now, I'm just going to create it for myself.
True. All right, cool. All right. So, what's a chapter you don't really talk about often? Maybe a moment of doubt that taught you your most meaningful lesson.
I have not a lot of those, right? So again, you see in the personality, brand building, self-building self, like I told myself, me deserve everything will come to me, deserve it, I just need to work hard, right? So I don't really doubt myself a lot. I have no problem. I have a healthy relationship with failure. I have a healthy relationship with failure. I will try, right? And I mean, I talk about half-assed it, like go do it. And then I figure, all right, this opportunity is not an opportunity worth exploring. Or if it works, maybe it's not something that's right for me, or I just don't have the skill at this point in time to execute this at this level. But I've had a lot of successes because of my willingness to go learn it. But in terms of an area where I had like serious doubt, I went through tough. You see, when I lost my brother, a lot of people don't know what that did to me because I grew up with my brother. Same mother, same father, was sleep on the same bed. I mean, I brought my brother was not supposed to be at UE. Right? My brother squatted in the same room for years, and he was not supposed to be at UE, right? And that changed me, man. It changed me. I went through some dark times at that point, and then I had to relearn some things because there's a lot of things that there's something that a lot of people don't know. So I know a lot of people, and a lot of people don't know. When in terms of developing like deep-rooted relationships outside, I never had the real need to go do that. I'm not the only child, and I always had my brother, right? So when people, like when you're building yourself and like you would need, it's almost like the validation from other people means so much from you. I never really meant that much because I always had like a safe, solid, right? So that was tough for me, but the only positive I can say from that is that he was here long enough in my life that by the time he passed, I'd already found myself, so I still never need the validation of external validation of other people. So I just kind of became like I don't want to say alone because it's not
established by that time.
But that was a tough time. When it's a tough time, dark time for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. I can't even ask you this question because then it seems like you don't suffer from imposter syndrome.
No, that's not true. That's an
okay. All right. So then when that weight of it hits you, then how do you ground yourself and say, boy, I have done so much. So this task right here, this thing that I'm about to do, I might feel a little doubtful, but how you walk yourself through that?
All right. So remember, the platform you're creating here, and why I love it is that it's creating a blueprint for those who are watching, right? Because you're going to have some people who are further than you and I in their journey, and then you have some people who are just a few steps. So what we say here, create like a pathway for them to follow, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and not be authentic in saying that we don't undertake some tasks that we say, maybe this one bigger than me. I'm not gonna say that. But again, remember I said at the onset that what we're doing is we are putting forward our best self by being prepared. Because if you're not sure as to how to do something, what you have to do is get very prepared, which is where we started, right? So I take on tasks all the time that are leaps and bounds beyond where I am personally, skill sets wise, professionally, right? But what I do is I go invest $100 every $100, to get very prepared. And I've done that over and over again. Like I recently started a DNA testing venture. If you see the giants I slay with that thing, because I get very prepared. Like I get almost like obsessed with knowing how it works and how the system works and how to improve it by a microsecond. Very process oriented and that sort of thing. And so I wouldn't be able to say I don't get imposter syndrome. But what I do is I prepare myself out of that doubt.
Understood. All right. So I read that you manage over 500 million in digital revenue annually, right? But you speak on mentorship and service. What grounds your definition of impact? Is it the 500 million, or is it actually helping others, paying it forward?
Right. So on the matter of the 500 million. So right now I manage Sagicor's digital revenue channel, right? So anywhere the company make money using online channels, I manage it. So $500 million a year, and yeah, that is impact in one regard, but I don't tie my identity to that sort of thing.
Right.
I don't.
Yeah, because if it wasn't out there, I wouldn't. Yeah, I've never seen you post about that. I've never seen.
I don't tie my identity to that sort of thing, right? I try to tie my identity to like me talking to people. Like I do a lot of speaking engagements, So most of the things I posted about that because I really value that because I believe that I benefited from it a lot, right? And me presenting my journey and maybe 4 or 5 steps, just 4 or 5 steps ahead of where somebody is at that, and which means when I talk to them, they hold me in high regard is because I can almost predict them future because I lived it and walked it, right? And I can say, don't do that, do that, do that. And I still spend a lot of time on the university campuses, UI and UTech, helping people navigate like where they want to go and that sort of thing. And I say that is what I consider impact. Because even when I go home, back in my community in Westmoreland, and I see how the people interact with me and because they see what they deemed as markers of success, the TV, the articles, and whatever it is, and they know me from, I consider those things impact because I can share small nuggets and they will appreciate it coming from me because they know where I started, right? So that is really what I consider impact, being able to show people, and not just students, but even my colleagues. I have co-workers, who actually, who them tell us, yo, if you want the game, go talk to Terron. Like, I'll show you the game exactly how to do it. Like I have business ventures that I started and I can't scale. So at my level, I probably outgrow it. But I see somebody who has like the skill set to do it and I say, I used to do this. This is exactly how I used to do it. Like, because I have this thing where I say, I will show you the test paper because all of us can get A. I will show you the answer to the test paper, right? And I do that all the time, bro. I show people answer to the test paper. So, and I get a lot of credibility from that. Like I have people who really ever tell us, yo, you want to attack the man there, the plug.
Okay, all right, cool. What's something that you've built personally or professionally that nobody really claps for, but deep in yourself you were proud of yourself for doing that, or you value that highly, but you never really get the praise for it?
It's because I don't focus on the praise I don't even know, but I also get praise on a lot of things, right? But let me tell you, I think what I value is how, like, I have family members who know how we were raised and what resources we had growing up, right? And when they see how I carry myself and the things that I'm able to do, them just say, yo, you, then they say, yo, you. And I appreciate that, right? I appreciate that. And then you have like things like one of my latest venture is 876 DNA test. I don't believe people fully understand how big that thing is. No, I don't think they do. And I'm also not very keen on telling them, right? But if they understood how scrappy I built it and what I did to go build it, like literally it's just, I tell myself, why can't I have all these things that everybody else have? Like, because I'm telling you, I'm not here trying to pretend, we do the work. Like, we go to school, we work, we put in work, right? And you want to achieve things for yourself. You want to achieve things, but it's not very easy. Like, life is not easy, bro.
Especially if you don't have the leverage.
If you don't have the leverage. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And once you start having family and bills and that sort of thing, it's not easy. But we're all ambitious people. We want to ensure that we have a nice place to stay, nice things. And as hard as I work, I recognize it's not easy, right? So I had to start thinking, okay, so how can I get myself into this? I probably don't know the word, but this 1% of it's people who have things. And I said, well, it has to come down to ownership. Because in this world, there are 2 types of people who buy things and people who sell things, right? And I said, well, I have to sell something. And I just literally started to go down. I started to look at what I know. Because there's also a next thing. You'll never see me on social media talking about, like, I'm an expert in this digital thing, but I wanted to understand something. I really know this, brother. I know what the foundation of how these things work and how you convert some of these things to revenue. And I just needed to find what product would I lay over this digital infrastructure to convert to revenue. And I was just on the internet and I found it. And when I found it, I was like, okay. So, and I started to look at what other people did in the So I did a test of, or a mystery shop, maybe six companies in Jamaica that had this, and what were the best of each of them. And I looked overseas and looked at the best that they had, and I took the best from all 12 companies, local and overseas, and I put them in 8716 DNA test. 8716 test is the best DNA testing company in the world because of what I'm. But it's just that there's levels to it, and I need time to build it. But it's a beautiful thing.
And as you say, you take it serious. Like this is not a side thing.
This is not a hustle.
100%.
No, this is not a hustle. I want to know it's not a hustle because I know I can change my life, the trajectory of family life, and many lives that come using this thing. You know, and it's not just what it does, but the fact is a business, is an enterprise.
Right.
This is a global enterprise. I can serve clients
scale
anywhere in the world using this enterprise.
Yeah.
Right. So that is, you know, something I'm very proud of, and you know.
We'll touch on it a little bit more later on. So I have a video to show you. So I just want you to watch it. And if you remember this guy.
Competent choice for the office of Guild President. Now, over the past 3 weeks, I'm sure you've heard a lot of things, but I'm of the firm belief.
What does this? Cause I think you were 19 at the time, probably. So what would a 19-year-old Terron Dewar, who was running for Guild President, right? What did he need to hear at that time? Or you know what's something that you think you could tell him right now?
Yo, what I tell that Terron Dewar, who ran for Guild President, was to continue to believe that you can do it. Because remember that was point in time where I had to convince myself that yo, you deserve these things and you can become this person. You just need to follow these rubrics, right? Continue to believe that you can do it. Continue to operate and invest in yourself and in what you know, and continue to follow through and doing things that you say you're going to do. That is exactly what I'd tell him. And I think if he had the chance to look at me through that reverse mirror, he'd go,
job well done.
You did it, you understand? Nice. And there's still more for me to learn and do. Like I know this. Yeah. You know, because as you know, I'm not very pretentious. This version of me is not very pretentious. I'm not out here pretending like I've made it or that sort of thing. But I can tell him, I'm out here try it, I do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I think he'd be proud of me. And there's just, I'm interested to find out what the 45 version of me, 45-year version of me think about this version of me right now. Because I'm just out here trying, I compete with myself.
Ever changing, ever evolving.
Yes. And I compete with people, I compete with myself. Because I recognize competing with people don't work.
Yeah. Alright, so if you never hold another title in your life, right? After today, this is where it ends. What do you hope people would say about your life's work?
If I never hold another title.
Yeah, if these are the only titles you hold for the rest of your time, and God forbid something happen,
right?
What would you hope that people say?
That's a good question because I've thought about it. I've thought about it, right? And not so much about the titles because I'm also a little over them, right? So not really, you know. But I'm talking about if it was it, this was it right now. I definitely know that the people who I've interacted with would recognize the work that I've done, like, you know, and why I talk the way I talk and why they view me the way I view me, because they remember what I've done. And my family would be very proud because they know what I've built from the resources from which it came. And just generally the people who I interact with know say, yo, I'm a solid youth. I'm a solid youth.
Fair.
You know, so I try. That is what I think people would say, and I would be pleased with that. You know, with that. You know, because I learn and transition as I mature and I transition, I learn new things. I feel different ways about it, and I experience things different. You know, and I even hear things different and process it different. And I think having seen all the things that I've seen and experienced all the things that I've experienced and get the feedback, I think I'd be, you know, I know that I'm appreciated. Like I benefit from it. Like I still benefit from it to this day. This Guild President, I still benefit from it to this day. You know, who people perceive me to be, I benefit from it to this day. You know?
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So I have so I had asked online some persons, you know, what sort of some questions they'd like to ask someone in your field, right? So at Skylar, she was asking you, what was your biggest I think I'm going to give up moment and why?
I've never had one. It's not an option for me. Skylar, sorry, but and I know.
Hey, if you're enjoying this episode, be sure to like, comment, share, or leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the wisdom or documenting one story at a time. Now back to the discussion.
And I know that answer may not be what you're looking for because a lot of people deal with that.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, failure is not an option for me. Like, I will try till the day try and done.
Yeah.
Right? I will just come up with something and it may or may not work. But I've never had one of those options. I've had tough moments, because ambition, and trying to build things and can be painful. I know if you ever go through that pain where you're like, yo, this can't be real. This is loss after loss after loss. Like, you're trying things and you're doing the best and you know you have the skill, but it's just not coming together, right? And I get knocked down all the time, man. Knocked down to the point where I spend days, like 1-2 days in bed, and then I tell myself, this is not how my story is going to end. This is not how, I tell myself, this is not how my story is going to end. So the question that you asked about how people view me, this is not how my story is going to end because I dug it from the mud and I can't come stop right here, right? So I tell myself, this is not how my story is going to end and this is not what it's going to be. So I'm going to get up. I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to understand that this thing didn't work and I'm going to sit down, clear my thoughts and go back to the drawing board and come back, right? To the point where, let me tell you what I'm going to tell you. You see, if you don't stop, you can't feel. I don't even remember. And you know the reason why I said the answer that way? I don't even remember how those feelings are. Because I keep it moving. I can't tell you the details, granular details. I just know I've had those moments, but I can't tell you the granular details. I can't tell you what it, because I just keep it moving. You know? Yeah.
All right. So at Shanna_VW, she asks, how do you avoid burnout? Finding harmony between work, family, personal care, giving back.
A great question. And I can't tell you that I'm the best person for you to ask that because I don't have the balance. I go real hard.
Yeah.
You understand? I go real hard. It's just that I don't live out loud on social media, so I won't die out loud. But I go real hard. Like I work 18 to 20 hours a day. I got minimal on sleep. To the point where sometimes exhaustion really. I've had bouts recently too, where I got sick because of compound not sleeping. Because like I go to work, I come home, get some rest, I go to work again. And it's not just hardcore work, it's learning. Like I'm watching videos, reading books, constantly. So that is kind of how I do it. The balance, I can't yet say I've achieved the balance, but it comes over time. So for example, the product of my work enables me to have more resources. And with more resources, I then buy back my time. Because you have some things that I don't do any at all. I don't do any at all. I outsource them. Because I'm trying to buy back my time to achieve exactly what you're trying to say, the balance. But for right now, I think I'm coming from a resource deficit. Right? Because I don't come from the back. I think I'm coming from a resource deficit. I think I've made up the deficit right now, so I'm just now claiming what is mine and then go for surplus later.
Okay.
Right? So I don't have the balance.
All right. So how can someone without money or connections still build a brand that matters?
All right. So if the brand, because remember, you see, you have a lot of people who have, you say without money, you have a lot of people who have resources and tangible assets that don't have a brand. Right?
True.
So you have to think about, and I don't want to misinterpret the question, but when you think a brand is what people think, feel, and say about you when you're not in the room, outside of your presence, right? And sometimes you don't necessarily need that to achieve success and resources, right? Because brands are usually public figures, that's
some people just want to be quiet.
Some people just want to be quiet. Because you have kings and you have kingmakers.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to understand that. So I'm gonna first say that you don't always need money in order to be successful, right? What you need is you need to be resourceful, right? Because not because something is done this particular way, it means that you always have to do it that particular way. You can be scrappy. Don't be afraid to be scrappy and to use resources that you have. You know, if you wanted to do something and your presentation is not as aesthetic, you'll be authentic. You say, okay, well, this is where I'm starting. This place is not as aesthetic, but this is where I'm starting. You'll be authentic.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot of resources to do that. Over time, you improve what you have to offer and how it looks. But just start. Find something that you are good at, that you can monetize, and start. And sometimes you have to start doing free stuff. Yeah. So don't be afraid to offer yourself for free to get the experience and build up your portfolio. And then over time, you convert some of those free things to start using crappy equipment rather than shooting with a camera. You shoot with your phone, but just start. You know.
Because I tell people all the time, you don't need to wait until you have all the nice things. Just start it.
Do not wait.
Once start it small, do it well, it will grow.
It will grow, and you'll learn along the way.
Yeah.
You know, because the way to learn is to start.
Yeah. Only learn by doing.
Yeah. Only by doing. Yeah.
All right. So at Yo J, he's asking. So this is more marketing related. So he's asking, how do you spark a balance between brand and product marketing?
All right. Let me tell you that's an excellent question. So let me tell you what I figured out. Right. So sometimes marketers love the exciting things, big things, exciting things, right? And I've lived in that space for a while. I get the thrill from it. Big things, exciting things that start conversations and drive impressions and that sort of thing. But where I sit right now is a balance between marketing and the C-suite. Money is important, right? So why that works for me is that I'm also a businessman. So what I do is, and I would encourage anybody, start from how does this impact the business that you serve, right? And what the end outcome is, and reverse engineer the marketing to achieve that objective. So you still get the impressions and the wow factors and whatever it is now, but you must convert to what the business goal is. Start from the business goal, because the business and the revenue finance marketing is the business drive marketing, is not marketing drive the business.
Say it again.
The business drive marketing is not marketing drive the business. Sometimes I think the marketers believe that you put up something and you think it look good and it start the conversation, but you don't convert into sale or into what the business objective is. And it's a wrong way to do it because it's not sustainable. Right? Because at the end of the day, remember, the marketing budget comes from business revenues. Right? Is an investment is an investment or expenditure, depending on how you look at it. So you have to determine if your marketing is an investment to the business or an expenditure to the business, right? And the C-suite are always trying to cut expenditures, right? So
which is why it's always one of the first.
It's always one of the first, which is why the CMO job, the chief marketing officer job, is one of the most fickle in the C-suite. It has never been my intention to be a CMO. Never. I don't want head marketing for nowhere. Right? Because it's too fickle. And a lot of discipline is very subjective in a lot of instances, and everybody a marketer. Right? Everybody, without knowing how these metrics
not understanding that it's actually a science.
Real science, right? So the business side, you have to figure out how you pair what you're doing in marketing to make it make real business sense. And I think that is one of the things that we treat loosely in the space. Once you figure that out, you have it covered.
All right, cool. I mean, we have a few more questions. Why people were really interested in a marketing person, but I'll just do one more. I'll have some other things to touch. So, this Shamoy_10 asks, as a second-year marketing student, how do I level up my skills?
All right, watch it. What I advise any marketing student right now is this. First, make sure you finish your degree. First, because to say you have a marketing degree is a good thing. But what I'll honestly tell you is that how these curriculums are designed and what it takes to design a curriculum, get it approved, whatever it is, not keeping up as fast with what's happening in the real world, and the type of tools, skill sets, and how you apply it in the real world. So what I'd recommend any marketing student to do is to get active in some form of discipline of marketing, doing some work right now in the real world while you are at school.
Like an internship or
do an internship. Yes. Come on Digital Deans and make highlighter. Come, do some real work so you understand what's happening. It will also help you to reverse analyze what the theory is that the lecturer told you about. Because sometimes you don't really fully grasp the theory until you pair it with the right practical, right? It will make you a better product at the end of it. And it will also put you ahead of your peers. Because if all of you graduate and this person have the theoretical application of what marketing is as a discipline from it, and you've been in the field, it also helps you to identify which area of marketing your skill sets and interests and talents is most aligned to.
Good.
Right? And then you can double down on that once you come out. But that is what I'd say. Get involved. Not just do the schoolwork. Get involved. And I'm not even talking about the club and societies. I'm saying come out in the world, come do some real work out in the world while you're at school. Right? And that will shape everything about you. Yeah.
Wonderful response. All right. So what does Caribbean leadership look like at its best, at its peak, at your estimation?
I think I love that question because, again, I brand myself as a regional citizen and I have so much friends across the region. I think leadership throughout the Caribbean at its best is figuring out the right balance between understanding that we are one people separated by bodies of waters that have cultural inflections and innuendos that must be respected and celebrated. Because every island has its own sauce and own way of saying things and things, which must be respected and protected, right? But we must figure out within all this individualism, how do we celebrate the oneness of Caribbean people, and how do we deploy institutions and resources and corporations across the region that identify and recognize that we are one people, but celebrate the inclusive individualism that exists. You see, whenever we figure out how to manifest that in real things, the region is unstoppable because there are some beautiful people across this region. You understand? There's some talented people, there's some passionate people, there's some brilliant people. But the individualism and the separation has not made us as great as we could be. But it's not too late. Because again, because of how rich and diverse some of these experts, it's like a perpetual well of talent in the region. We just need to figure out how to harness that. You know?
Okay. All right. So, what's one truth you want young people to walk away with from this interview?
The truth I want young people to understand.
You can probably look to the camera for this one.
The truth I want young people to understand is this. You are going to get better if you put in enough work. Anything you choose to do, you're going to get better at it. There's a natural inclination of you getting better if you put in enough work. But if you're lazy and you don't invest the time to get better at this thing, you're not going to get better at it, right? To be very honest, it doesn't take... It is easier to become top 1% or top 5% in any skill set or any topic or any discipline than you actually think it is. You just have to put in the work, right? And if you put in enough work, you will recognize, putting enough work, surround yourself by the right people, not being afraid to ask for guidance. You recognize that you're probably better off than you think you are. It's just that you don't have already yardstick against which you can measure yourself against everybody else. But you have to be willing to put in the work. You understand? Read, learn, dive into the content. And again, once you get an opportunity to interact with peers in that space, you recognize, oh, well, I'm really hanging with these guys, you know? And you recognize that this imposter syndrome that you have is manufactured imposter. Because you're not an imposter at all, you're right there with them, right? Which is why you're right in the room, which is why when you ask about the imposter syndrome, I don't really feel it, because again,
you're always around.
And again, sir, I've sat in rooms where, in multiple occasions, my daily life is sitting in rooms where I'm the youngest person in there, or the most junior, right? And when I sit down and I look around and I hear the questions and the thought process, I recognize, I'm right here with these guys. I just don't have the age.
You must be doing something right.
Yo, I'm right here with these. First and foremost, I'm in the room. There are some rooms that I'm in and there's no business me in this room. But somehow I'm invited because they see it, right? But again, I'm not in the business of trying to get you to see it. I'm just doing what I'm doing. And when I hear thought processes and the questions asked, and I'm saying, these are smart questions, but I see it in real blueprint time. Or I thought the question before it was asked by Usman. And I'm like, oh, I'm right here. Like, this is not, I'm right here. And as a matter of fact, in a lot of instances, there are areas where they're discussing, and I know why, I figured out why I'm in the room, because they recognize that I'm the subject matter expert in this particular area here. So, as I said, just invest in getting better. Invest in getting better because, it's going to pay off. It has to. It has to.
All right, cool. I love that response. So, again, you've built multiple ventures outside of your corporate life, right? So we know that you have the barber shop. You have 876 DNA test. Tell me more about 876 DNA test. Like, what sparked that business, and how does it tie into like your bigger mission of service and access?
I love that question.
Because personally, I'd love to know why you touched on it earlier, but I want to really understand why are DNA
Why
testing?
DNA testing?
Yeah.
Yo,
this is
that's
such
a great question. Left field, right? Yeah, left field. And yo, I love that question, and I'm gonna tell you why, because I'm gonna take it from the front. So when I was reading for my undergraduate degree, I had a lecturer. His name is Jermaine McAlpin, right. Dr. Jermaine McAlpin, right? So he thought, I don't want to say theories of the state, but like I don't remember the name of the course, but it was restorative justice. Restorative justice was the topic that he was lecturing, and I found the concept of restorative justice, which is just a way of amicably finding peaceful solutions without going to the rigorous court and justice systems, right. And so when Dr. McAlpin delivered the lecture on restorative justice, I was so intrigued by the way how he explained it that I went and I did additional research. That is kind of where I got my first inkling of, all right, maybe I need to do something in the world, not necessarily be a politician, but something in the world where I can like get people to really start looking at that. That manifested itself in me being a justice of the peace, right? And two of the very first outside of signing documents, justice of the peace, and if you're really active as I am, do a lot of things. Two of my very first cases of mediation, one of them had to do with domestic violence with paternity fraud at the core of it, right? And I remember mediating in that case, and it never went so well, to the point where one big stone went too close to my head. In just trying to mediate the case, right? But I figured out, and I'm like, okay, so I started to look. That was what triggered it first.
There's a problem here.
Yeah, this problem triggered it first, and then I started to look into it. But in my thing now, where I said I keep investing in reading and learning, I just kept reading, not necessarily about DNA testing. It was just my natural reading of how you use digital systems and how you use business. I spent a lot of time in this space trying to figure out how this worked. And I was literally on X one day, and I saw something came up and it sparked my interest about DNA testing. And just like me consuming content all the time, I watched that. I was like, okay, good. And then I remembered that about this instance. And when I saw it, I parked it, because I have a mental parking lot that I park ideas in, right? And I revisited it, and I did a quick market scan of what's happening in Jamaica. I saw the people who did DNA testing, and I was like, okay, these guys are okay, fine. And I immediately had like 6 or 7 thoughts as to how I could make this better. 6 or 7 thoughts about how I could make this better. And I looked at all the people who are doing it in Jamaica, and I looked at the best people who are doing it overseas, and I said, and I created like a feature map. These are the 10 to 12 things that these people are doing. This is the best one, this one, this is the best one, this one, this is the best one, this one, locally, this is the best one, these people regionally, this is the best one. And I took all these best and I put them, I said, this is what it's going to take if you're going to build a monster company that serves people at high level in one starting in Jamaica, 2 regionally, which I've already started doing, and 3 globally, which we do a bunch of tests globally. And that is literally what I did. And I became obsessed over it. When I say obsessed to the point where I've relearned things that I've forgotten. Yeah, relearn things. Because you have some people who, no matter how much you learn, they've forgotten half of what you learned. Yeah. So when it comes to this digital thing, I used to be very, 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 very deep into it. I've forgotten more things than most people know. I've had to go relearn it, right, in order to figure out how I get an increment better at delivering some of these things. And I just liked what it did for me as a person, that sparked that fire to continuously learn. So I've grown it significantly. We have 64 locations across the island, across our 14 parishes, and we have the capacity to do a DNA test between anybody in Jamaica and anybody in the world without people traveling. And we do these things daily, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. Even how I got the number 876. And again, I reserve the right to change after I learn something, to change my mind about anything that I learned a second before. Like, I'll learn something, and I think, okay, this is a good thought process, good idea, and I read and learn something else, and no matter what I've done based on that old information, I relearn it. Yeah, because I don't have fixed mindset. I have an open mindset about
Growth
everything.
Mindset.
Yeah, I relearn it and change it. Because the company, what the name of the company is now is not, that wasn't the name of the company. I got I named the company one thing, and I'm going to say it because I'm using it. And then I thought, 876 DNA test. And I literally went on my phone and dialed 876 DNA test. And I like, okay. And I called the number. And a gentleman answered the phone. And I said, I used to own this number back in the day. How much you would give for it? And I said, you know what? Don't even bother. I have 40 grand for you right now. The man said, 40 grand? I bought this number for $500 2 weeks ago. And I said, where are you? Maypen. I said, do not move. I jump in my car.
Wow.
From Kingston, and within half an hour I was in Maypen.
Wow.
That is how I act on.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I want to be, I can be surgically strategic if I want to be. Yeah. If I invest the time. And I can tell you a million examples as to, how I was surgically strategic in this endeavor, and generally, because that is how I am. Yeah. So it's been a journey. I mean, and I'm sure the journey is far from.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a I want to say the epidemic of paternity fraud in Jamaica, and so there must be a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, but also it's more about clarity. Because again, I know people, the main product that we offer is paternity and relationship testing. Right. But that's just one way of doing, that's just one form of DNA testing, right? There's just one form, right? You have genotype matches that can tell people whether or not how they should select their spouses, because there are some genotype matches that work perfectly together, and some of them that open your offsprings up to all sorts of ailments. And you can do genetic screenings that give you indication of genetic mutations that can tell you if you're susceptible to things like cancer or what type of cancer years before you start exhibiting.
And this is offered
all of these are offered under this. It's just that I was smart enough to understand that if I wanted to get a strong foothold in the market, I shouldn't go against the current. And the majority of the current was in this. But I have all these things under the hood. Like I can, once this ready, I press open and it becomes a thing, I've already built a lot of them in great instance. So as I said, it's a lot bigger than a lot of people think, but it's okay. Yeah. What they're seeing now for now is okay because I have to grow it also at a pace at which I can manage. I own 100% of the thing, Yeah. You understand? So if I start, now I have to start inviting in investors and that sort of thing, and I'll be able to tell you that some of these, I'm not as sophisticated at some of these things as yet. Right. And because I understand that and I'm willing to acknowledge that, I understand that I have to learn these things over time before I open myself up to somebody who is far more sophisticated, and then something happens that I don't have the skill set to navigate. Not prepared, yeah, because again, I'm not prepared. But you see, when I'm opening it, I'm going to be very prepared. Yeah. Okay.
Nice. All right, Terron. So for every episode, we ask our guests to complete this sentence. So the sentence goes, behind my title is...
Behind my title is just somebody who's trying to make it. That's it. I think this is just trying to make it. And whatever you take from that, you take from that. I'm just trying to make it because I understand where I started. I don't yet know where I'm going to end, but I'm trying to make it. And whatever it takes in terms of learning and investing and mentorship and bringing people along, that is what's going to happen. But behind my title, all I'm trying to do is to just make it so I can be independent and take care of everybody around me.
Okay, nice. Yeah. All right, Terron, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate it.
And that's it for this episode of Behind the Title. If something in this conversation stirred something in you, that's not by chance. These stories aren't just for entertainment, they're blueprints, reminders, and seeds of legacy. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Catch you in the next one.